So moving into sort of a different angle, what's the most interesting maintenance from the trenches customer story you could share with us?
In labs, we set up our dedicated maintenance team about 2.5 years ago, 2.5, 3 years ago. And in the beginning, for us, driving a wedge between what the sprint teams used to take care of everything. And all of a sudden there was this like popped up, like now you have two different spaces. And it became very stark and quite obvious that the nature of the work in maintenance is completely different to the maintenance and to the work in like I call it an innovation team, but a team that's doing sort of new build stuff. And I think, Tish, you were there in the early days with us as well. This feels like, 15 years ago. It really was only 2.5, but back in the old days. And I think we had some really interesting experiences taking over a site into a long-term maintenance strategy, knowing we were going to have the site with us in our space for the next 3 years, 4 years, sometimes even longer. But none of the developers or the designers or the project managers on the maintenance side were involved in the build. So there was this knowledge transfer process, which really took some getting used to, I think. It came down to building new processes, about being more, taking more, for the new build teams, taking more responsibility for documenting stuff, making sure decisions were clear and, and recorded somewhere. And in fact, now later on, the best takeovers we've done are ones where there are snippets of video or audio recordings of certain conversations, those kinds of things. Sometimes screen recordings of developers deploying stuff and highlighting tricky things. I think that like maintenance from the trenches cases from those early days was where a customer, particularly the customer, didn't really make that shift from new build, the feel of new build, to the feel of maintenance, how things both slow down and speed up at the same time. They slow down because you become a bit more conservative with taking on new projects, new features and that sort of thing. But they also speed up because when the site is broken, it's broken, and you can't wait 2 weeks to fix it. So we had some very interesting customers that had been with the new build teams, or what we now call the new build teams, for 3 years, and then came into a space where everything was very different. Things like customers breaking things, not checking boxes and rolling back to 3 years ago because the database backups were there, ticking the wrong thing. How about on your side, Amy? I mean, you must have also had some interesting maintenance in the trenches kind of things.
Yeah, our like Hook 42's business was primarily maintenance. We did big projects, but we really had long-term engagements with our clients. And I think the biggest thing out of maintenance is getting the client mindset into, hey, this is the cadence that we should expect together, but also being really transparent with a roadmap of where they want to go, not just in the next 2 weeks or a month, but hopefully that 6 month, 1 year outcome, because that helps inform what is done on the maintenance side of things and prioritization, because then you can help get their gains faster, because we've got some sites where we call it Frankensites sometimes, where we've pulled that in and we're like, oh no, and it has the worst conversation to ever have, with the client, is like, your site's really in a bad shape. What are we going to do with it? But it really just comes down to that, like, feeling that you need to be a team with your client. You have to work together to figure out what is the best way to enable the tech team to make the changes and update things, and enable the design team to stay abreast with what they want to do on their business end. So it really is like becoming an extension of the client team is really the best thing. I think that we have some fun, entertaining stories about the client oopsing and having to jump in and unoops things. There's some big oopses that have happened, but you hopefully work together and make sure that the processes prevent that, permissions prevent that type of thing. So but it does happen. It's like, what did you just delete?
We had one customer who figured out how to allow raw PHP into a text box on an old Drupal 7 site, and then copy pasted HTML and the whole of the jQuery library to be able to implement the little animation that he wanted. So the whole page just broke, but we couldn't figure out why, because it's like, it's just an edit. And then we went and looked at what they had put, and we're like, whoa, okay, hectic, crazy. And that's actually an interesting, what you say there at the end actually is something we maybe don't speak about in the maintenance side enough, is that maintenance strategy actually needs a very much a relationship, a maintenance relationship as well.
Yeah.
There needs to be a huge amount of trust on both sides of the client supplier sort of table. So that's something maybe that is interesting to talk about, is that a maintenance relationship lasts for years often, right? And bringing people to the same side of the table rather than a negotiating table is super important, actually.